This is the story of 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu, a radical approach to the art of grappling, one that would go on to have a global impact. At the heart of this revolution stands one man, a visionary, a rebel, and above all, a pioneer who dared to redefine the rules of an age-old martial art.
Hello, my name is Eddie Bravo, founder of 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu, a global martial arts association with headquarters based in downtown Los Angeles.
What 10th Planet actually means to me is that it's a dedication of individuals who are looking for what is possible and what can be done and what works at the highest level, you know?
I think the biggest difference between current 10th Planet and early 10th Planet is early 10th Planet was real MMA focused. Like, it was jiu-jitsu for MMA. Eddie had seen the effectiveness of, early Brazilian jiu-jitsu in the UFC and then saw it sort of fall off and just hypothesized. It's because they're training in the gi. It's different, no gi, train no gi, but it was real fight centered.
So what makes 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu so different? Well, I've taken the science and the concepts of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and infused it with a little evolution. I started by removing the traditional Japanese uniform known as the gi.
And then he came back. I think he was going to call it like Sumerian Jiu-Jitsu or something like that. I forget, because the joke was like back then, Eddie and I would smoke a lot of weed and we would watch documentaries. And we would watch, the big one was we were really into Zecharia Sitchin. The Sumerian text, in his interpretation, described a planet that came in an elliptical orbit every 3,600 years close to Earth. And that this planet was called Nibiru. And that this planet, there's these creatures on this planet called the Anunnaki. And that human beings were the product of accelerated evolution. So the Anunnaki came down here when we were basically lower primates in the jungle, and they experimented with our DNA and turned us into what we are now.
So that's why he called it 10th Planet.
So I came up with 10th Planet. That's my name.
Was he pissed?
Because I was like, Sumerian Jiu-Jitsu, no one's going to know what that means, man. I go, just call it 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. Like, this shit is so crazy. It's from over there.
Was he?
10th Planet wasn't really trying to make waves within the BJJ community as much so as it was trying to be a unique path to making the beautiful art of jiu-jitsu be something substantial and actually vital to MMA training. That was the whole thing. So when it started becoming more sport jiu-jitsu and people use it for that, it's like, oh, that's great, but it really wasn't the original purpose for it. That was just kind of a consequence of the development of so many people adding to the system. What got appealed to me, having come from a Jeet Kune Do background of trying to mix these ideas and concepts, was the fact that it was an aggressive defensive position, right? When you get on the ground, you don't just play half guard and wait for something to happen. You play lockdown and you aggressively try to sweep. You don't just lay on your back and take punches, you clinch. You use rubber guard to get back and submit people and really gun toward finishing them. And that for me was the key in making 10th Planet unique amongst BJJ systems. It wasn't just a worst case scenario per se, but it actually had a path toward victory focused on finishing with submission.
10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, everything was about being able to punch, being able to transition from here, being in a position where they can't punch and you can elbow, elbows from chill dog, just a lot of stuff about using your guard to immobilize people and strike. And then once EBI sort of came out, then there was a real showcase for submission-only jiu-jitsu, and the focus switched to that.
It's like when you look back at those times, it was an interesting era. It was an interesting era for us as humans. It was an interesting era for martial arts. There was a lot going on, and that 10th Planet was really a hub of exciting innovation, and still is. But I mean, back then it was this really unique thing, this completely no-gi branch of jiu-jitsu that's directly connected to Jean-Jacques Machado.
The biggest moments, in the very beginning, were people like George Soteropoulos coming in. When Dan Hardy had the fight with George St. Pierre, and our boy Alder, who runs 10th Planet Van Nuys now, was in his corner with him getting ready for the fight, like, that was huge, That was the beginning of us getting a taste of just how close we are to the very top of this sport. Ben Saunders, of course, probably the most dedicated 10th Planet guy because he actually owns this gym now, and rocking that omoplata in the UFC. So shout out to Ben Saunders.
Coming out here to train with Eddie Bravo definitely comes from my Jeet Kune Do basis. It's all about just expanding your mind, training all different styles, being open-minded.
You've accomplished way more than I have.
I definitely believe we're both artists in our own way, man. We're both, scientists to the art, and, no one can deny Eddie Bravo's passion for jiu-jitsu. You could sense easily that your passion is there. So I'm like, when you surround yourself with people that are passionate about the same thing and you're into the evolution, for me, it just seemed like a no-brainer, man.
They say the guard is dead. They say the guard is there only to get back to your feet. Nobody told Ben Saunders, nobody told Eddie Bravo, and he gets himself to mission control. Well, he climbs up. He's setting up something called the dead orchard position. They say that triangles can only be finished with one arm in and one arm out. Well, nobody told 10th Planet that, because over there, these guys with long limbs are finishing this two-arm-in triangle, and now he's got him in the position that he wants. This is called New York, and he hugs this leg, traps the whole thing in there. The arm is on the mat. The knee is being hugged. The pressure is on there. Still has that dead orchard, but as he slips out of the dead orchard, it sets up the omoplata position. And this little braid of flesh and bone is a painful one to watch. This is one big battle right in here for this omoplata position, and it is pressure on the shoulder right now. Watch that. He just grabs his shin, uses it as a lever, and pulls the extra pressure onto the shoulder right here. This is close. It's already hurting him. Last ditch effort, keep this hip away by posting up on this leg. This baby is done, and look what happens right here. He gets a hold of the hand. Eddie told me last night that this is part inverted arm lock, part wrist lock, and shoulder lock. It's all bad, baby. It's all bad. And let's all pause right here, because there's a myth that the omoplata does not work in MMA. And let's just have a moment of silence for that myth as it dies right here. As his hip is on the ground, the omoplata is in, and this baby is done. Omoplata submission, Ben Saunders. Welcome back to the UFC, baby. That was thrilling. Way to go, Eddie.
Those moments, I think, really put 10P on the map and allowed us to create the first EBI and second EBI and the submission-only community that gained popularity because the UFC was also gaining so much popularity at the same time. Yeah.
Somebody who does Nogi Jiu-Jitsu, even if it's not 10th Planet, they're like, oh shit, you train 10th Planet? Like, what's it like? Is Eddie Bravo really that crazy? Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, but it's awesome. So I think now people respect it more, and they've seen how far 10th Planet competitors have come up and stuff, so.
You had the first UFC, you had hoists dragging people to the ground and finish them. And I was like, oh, jiu-jitsu. And after a while, people got smart to it. They started to counter wrestle. They started to get their striking together. And they started to realize, shit, it's a little harder. But then if you can't knock them out, first option. If you can't wrestle them down, second option. You have to have a third option. And that was where the jiu-jitsu came in. And what kind of jiu-jitsu? Well, no-gi jiu-jitsu specifically. And what kind of no-gi jiu-jitsu? Well, this clinch jiu-jitsu that we've been working on for, 20 years now. And so putting in all that time, I think, really helped for it to stand out amongst any other academies and really prove to the world that it was something different that was systemized for a particular purpose, not just a couple of flashy moves here and there. Oh, let's call it a different jiu-jitsu system. No, there was more to it than that. You really need to study those positions to appreciate that.
But no path to glory is free from obstacles, no innovation without its critics.
10th Planet has basically been hit with resistance and controversy ever since the inception. So starting all the way from Eddie defeating Hoyler, right away the media spin cycle went ahead and started saying this was a fluke, this was something that could never happen again, that Eddie was really just some lucky brown belt who caught this legend, and this was not a disproving of or approving of Eddie Bravo's jiu-jitsu over Royler Gracie's jiu-jitsu. This was just something that happened.
I mean, that was the year that he tapped out Royler Gracie. It was the craziest upset ever.
Wow.
It was insane.
Is that
insane in Brazil.
Is that what blew him up?
100%, man. He wasn't even a black belt yet. Eddie was a brown belt.
And he tapped out Royce Gracie?
Hoyler.
Oh, Royler Gracie.
Hoyler, who was Royce's brother, who was more successful even than Royce in jiu-jitsu tournaments. He's like one of the greatest Gracies of all time in terms of his accomplishments in winning world jiu-jitsu tournaments. He was the man.
What did he tap him with?
A triangle. One of the greatest experiences of my life. Like I get emotional right now.
Yeah, because I can't even imagine. See, that's real love for your homie. For you to get that emotional because he won,
it changed his life.
Yeah, man.
Because he was always like this like super talented guy, and like, you know, he and I would talk about it. He would talk about all these jiu-jitsu wizards and all these people that were like super talented. I go, dude, you're a fucking wizard.
Ih, rapaz, agora encaixou, hein? Tem que sair daí, Royler. Tem que sair daí. Tá vencendo por 3-2.
Look at him squeezing. Hoyler's fucked, and he's trying to get out here. But this is just death. And then Eddie finally grabs the head, and when he grabs the head with the squeeze, Hoyler's tapping, and that's it. And so Eddie walks up, and this is what he said. He said he couldn't believe it, but he walked around with his arms up in the air like he knew it was going to happen.
A luta por 6-2. Uma surpresa, hein? You won a unbeatable, man. He's a legend. I can't believe I won. Can't believe I won.
So that was the birth of 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. And then he came back. Jean-Jacques Machado gave him his black belt. Jean-Jacques took his black belt off.
After this match?
After that match. And put it on Eddie.
So from the very beginning, it was like the mainstream opinion of 10th Planet was that it was a system that didn't really have a basis in fact, wasn't really effective, and wouldn't become mainstream and shouldn't be supported, quite frankly.
Some of you have been asking me what I think of this 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu nonsense. 10th Planet, of course, is a system from California. It's named after the 10th planet in our solar system, Uranus, which makes sense because this system stinks.
Why would I give a fuck about a fake fight when I could see real stuff?
Why am I gonna give a fuck about a fake jiu-jitsu guy? A fake jiu-jitsu black belt? You have an interview with this guy. We're doing a TV show. I know you do a TV show. And this guy, he's not a real black belt. They do a lot of things, but they don't do jiu-jitsu. They don't do real Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You want to interview a real guy. That's Renato Laranja.
Have a seat, man. It's all yours. Have a seat.
That led to a lot of gyms deciding that the way to handle 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu was to essentially ban it from the academy. So people like myself who remember training at gyms prior to there being 170 10th Planet gyms around the world like there are now, we were training in gyms and we were the 10th Planet guy at that gym. And so everyone else was a classical jiu-jitsu practitioner, and then there was the 1 or 2 10th Planet guys, and instructors would berate you, they would make fun of you. People have been kicked out of gyms literally for using the lockdown.
That guy who come to my seminar, hand me some shirt. Eddie Bravo. Stand up. Tell me your name.
Oh, my name's Evan.
Come here. Get in front of the class. If you're so smart, why don't you teach? Why don't you tell them something they need to know? If that's so smart, that shirt.
Anybody can do this. They just have to have an open mind, that's all. And for me, I thought, man, if we're gonna bring jiu-jitsu back, we gotta get rid of the gi, get rid of this old Japanese superhero outfit. A lot of people in the jiu-jitsu community thought that I was turning my back on jiu-jitsu, and it was nothing could be further than the truth. I was doing it for jiu-jitsu. I thought everyone would join me.
No gi, jiu-jitsu exclusively, and then the marijuana thing, which now it seems like not a big deal. Everyone smokes weed, and it turns out all of the Brazilians smoke weed too. But at the time, it was like 10th Planet was representing this counter-cultural movement inside of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that was something that had to be fought, just like the way the hippies in the 60s were fought.
Todd is busy getting into the 10th Planet uniform, and he said he was going to do something again on the 10th Planet mindset. He must be burning some incense or something.
I'm Eddie Bravo, founder of 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. I'm here helping out the High Rollers tournament, the grand prize. Used to get you put in jail. Now it's a grand prize, a pound of weed. That's pretty crazy.
There was a cultural resistance to 10th Planet, and then there was like in the gym, like this is something that's banned that you shouldn't practice because it's not good and it's not gonna work for you.
It was created by a guy named Eddie Bravo, who I believe has his own cartoon show. That's probably why the system is so ridiculous, because none of these moves would work anywhere except in a cartoon.
We had a chip on our shoulder. Like, we had to go prove this every single weekend, and the odds were against us. You know, just based on the numbers, that's another thing that's always been a challenge. 10th Planet's a very small system compared to a lot of the other more traditional Brazilian systems. So we've always been small in numbers, but very enthusiastic.
But in order to defeat a 10th Planeter, you need to get them comfortable in their environment, okay? Party lighting here, okay? Get some music. Okay? Now it really feels like a 10th Planet dojo.
10th Planet was the black sheep of jiu-jitsu in that no one really wanted us there, but there we were, and we were going to show up, and we weren't going away. So when it came to the tournaments, 10th Planet started to really aim towards the submission-only tournaments or the submission-heavy tournaments. That was the way that 10th Planet wanted to go, away from the IBJJF points direction. That was not really our emphasis, because we were really interested in the submission-only jiu-jitsu game. And so now what I would say is that 10th Planet has actually completely taken over the submission-only jiu-jitsu game, to the point where when you go to a tournament, sometimes a majority of the no-gi competitors are either representing a 10th Planet gym directly or representing a 10th Planet style in their style of jiu-jitsu. So we kind of went from being the black sheep to being the mainstream in the no-gi jiu-jitsu world.
I wasn't planning on doing my own show. I didn't want to. I had this idea, I had this format in my head that I thought could take jiu-jitsu as a sport to the next level, to get it into TV, but no one really wanted to hear, especially the overtime rules that I came up with. They were just too far out. And so eventually, along with my partner Victor Davila, we just decided to do it on our own.
I think that when you feel looked down upon by the mainstream of jiu-jitsu, or you're not taken seriously, it makes you want to prove everyone wrong. It makes you want to really show the world that you belong there. Before 2013, 10th Planet was like 8 schools. It was like a handful of schools. And then after 2013, when Eddie had his second match with Hoyler, and the world saw another display of high-level 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu on display, then the association really started to blow up, like numbers-wise.
I'm training hard. I'm already at weight. I'm in the best shape of my life. My technique is way different, way better, way stronger. I'm stronger than I was back then.
Gracie Veterano, old family first, fam. Taught the world to swing that double-edged sword. It works, fam. BJJ from GJJ, like Cool Herc gave birth to what your DJ plays. But despite the lineage, I will never be closed-minded. Refuse to see beyond the lines, you go blind. Rocker travels the 10th planet, I flow free. I'm welcome on mini-mats, gi to no gi. Though my branch traces roots to the original tree. Roots sprouted from the original seed. Water with blood, sweat, and tears, spotlight with sunlight. That tree became a forest, ballet tudo done right. Then Hoyts dominated them all in one night.
That changed everything. That gave us the ability to do bigger events, and so we had more access to more competitors, higher numbers. We got guys like, PJ Barch on the scene, guys that have a wrestling background that are able to compete, in bigger events. ADCC, we won the quintet, we won Subversive, we won a lot of we started to stack up some professional accolades as an association because we were drawing on a bigger number of people, So in the beginning, we were kind of outgunned and outnumbered, but we were just in there fighting for our right to exist, And then as we grew in size, in technique, in strength, we started to go after real professional achievements that we're competing for now.
From this singular mind sprang a revolution. Techniques so distinct, they altered the very fabric of the grappling arts.
Well, Eddie figured out a brilliant thing with rubber guard. With a brilliant thing with mission control and how to control from the back of the neck.
He
utilizing
closes
your
the
leg.
distance.
Yes.
He closes the distance.
He changed a lot of people's games.
What some people don't want to recognize, but they have to, is the idea that he had. And I remember him coming up and trying some of the techniques, and people, oh, this is crazy. I said, no, man, keep going. You're going to get somewhere.
And what are you going to show me?
I'm going to show you something called the sorcerer. This is the step 1 in the main path. Step 2, we're in New York. Now we clear the neck, we're in chill dog, and then invisible collar here. At invisible collar, you can't posture up, you can't pull out, and you can't stack.
Yeah, no.
This is the ultimate control position. And you could throw some elbows.
And most times in the early days, when we're first doing IBJJF worlds, people are trying to do rubber guard, people are just stacking through it, pressure passing, and we're still trying to figure out how to use it. And then people started coming along, Boogie, Richie Martinez, and Jill, and really started to use their angles and their body mechanics in more fluid ways that made it work. And then eventually you had the Jeremiah Vances and Ben Eddies and Nathan Orchards of recent times, where they're really taking rubber guard to the highest possible level you can.
I think the most important part of evolution is that it indicates that there's change over time. And if you get stuck into a rigid way of thinking, there's no room to change, and so no evolution can take place. And if you've got something great, that's not so bad. You know, we got something that's functional, we got something that works, we got something that's really good. Why change? But if you're not satisfied, or if you just want to see what else is possible, you have to be willing to question the things that you believe. You got to be willing to at least sit and ask questions about your basic assumptions.
I did this to focus on developing a jiu-jitsu style based on clinching your opponent rather than yanking and pulling on your opponent's gi, which I feel was taking the art into an unrealistic tug-of-war dimension.
And that's really the gift that Eddie gave to the jiu-jitsu community, is he was willing to sit down and say, okay, this is the way we've always done it. Why? And not accept the answer just because an authority figure was giving it to you. He would gather the answer on why, but then he would start to look at what else is possible around that. And that's changed everything about jiu-jitsu.
I'm very unorthodox. If you haven't seen in any of my fights, I'm very unpredictable, and I like to scramble, and I like to go for finishes left and right. I'm sure in his jiu-jitsu world, he's used to it, but we practice over at 10 Planet Jiu-Jitsu, no pajama game. This is the no-gi thing. On purposely, this is why I do it, because it preaches what we do inside that octagon.
What you got? I don't know jiu-jitsu. I know 10 Planet, bitches. No fucking gi is where it's at.
Tony is not being very elusive here. He's standing right in front of him, and there's another nice takedown. Tony's looking for the arm bar.
And it presents itself.
Oh, he's got it. Oh, look at that! Beautiful step over.
Wow! Triangle.
Oh, that's it. That's it.
Tony Ferguson, the new interim UFC lightweight champion of the world.
The UFC lightweight champion, Tony Ferguson. People ask me, does it feel good that Tony won off his back in the UFC? Does it feel extra special? Fuck yeah, guys. Since day one, the 10th Planet mission for me personally was to improve the bottom game in the UFC. That was my mission. And that was 2003. I just imagined, that was a dream to win a belt from the bottom, from the guard in the UFC. Fuck yeah, that felt extra special. People are constantly asking me, is Tony gonna get his black? When is he gonna get his black? You know, I got my black after Abu Dhabi, 2003. The day I got back, Jean-Jacques handed me the black belt off his waist.
He gave it to me off his waist. Jock's belt. He gave me that belt. It's right here, and I'm gonna give it to Tony.
Behind every warrior stands an army, a brotherhood bound by more than just a logo.
I mean, it's a family, you know? It's like 10th Planet is a really, like, all things considered, it's a really tight-knit group of people who really care about each other, who are invested in each other's success. It's a place where, you know, if you walk into a 10th Planet gym, you know, you're gonna be welcomed like with both arms, you know? Like, people are not standoffish. They're generally upfront, like, they just wanna train with you and they wanna have a good time, and, you know, like, the vibe I get when I go to a 10th Planet party is like unlike anything else. Like, I just feel like I'm with my people.
Amir Alam comes on, and this is all he says. It's like total mic drop. He goes, "The lockdown is not the 10th Planet gospel. An open mind is the 10th Planet gospel." And for me, that is the most important part about 10th Planet, and that has been the real gift that 10th Planet has given to me.
And so beyond just being open, like, Eddie's, you know, he's willing to hear your ideas. He's willing to see new things. You know, he's not just giving you a top-down approach. He's willing to listen to every single person's perspective on it. He's obviously open-minded when it comes to, you know, alternative facts or conspiracy theories or, you know, issues with the government. So I feel like there's like a lot of things that 10th Planet people are just generally skeptical about. Like, I feel like 10th Planet attracts a lot of skeptics, and they're met with a sort of like embrace in our system because we want to be skeptical. Like, that's what makes us good scientists, you know what I mean? We're skeptical of every technique until we tinkered with it enough to see if it's really something we should trust in, you know? And I think that Eddie, you know, he demonstrates that in his own practice, and he sets the culture, you know, from his gym, and it radiates out across the world.
If the technique works, we put it in the system. It's added to the warm-ups. Doesn't matter who developed it. If something's working at the highest level, Eddie grabs it, throws it in the warm-ups, and has the whole army drilling it.
In fact, the obvious thing that comes to mind is how good we do in team tournaments. Like, there's been a few team. In fact, I think 10th Planet is starting to become the #1 team when it comes to team tournaments. And that's shocking considering how small we are in relation to a lot of the other bigger jiu-jitsu organizations. We don't have as many schools to draw from worldwide, but what gives us our edge is that we actually feel like a team and we actually compete as a team. And when you see us, when I was cornering for the combat jiu-jitsu team, man, those guys were so tight and they were so there was such a brotherhood. And we learned later that some of the other teams had just kind of been put together with athletes drawn from different places, just kind of trying to round out a squad, but that's not a cohesive team.
Have you seen Quintet yet? The team jiu-jitsu? Quintet is Sakuraba's show. We're backstage watching this dude tear through that team. We end up going against Sakuraba's team in the finals, and Frida taps out Boogie. He got him with an armbar. And right there, Gio's next now. So I told Gio, I looked at him and said, avenge your brother's loss. I went fucking Kung Fu Theater, because I'm losing my mind. Right. I'm like, oh shit. Gio's got one of the best guillotines in the system here. Look, boom, he gets him right there before he stood up. There was no way he would have been able to catch that front headlock, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Once you have a front headlock, boom, look at this. He goes Marcellitine on him, boom. All Marcelo right here, check this out. Boom, bam, right there.
Wow, that is incredible, man. That is amazing. That is an amazing guillotine. That 140-pound dude can tap out an elite, high-level 210-pound dude like that. That's incredible.
A lot has happened over the last 20 years. Like, 20 years is such a long period of time. And something that I think that is probably not in dispute is that Eddie never wanted any of this. Eddie never wanted to have a association that was 170, almost 200 schools wide across the country and the world. And like, he never wanted to become this big professional organization, and he just wanted to express himself. He just wanted to express his jiu-jitsu, and people were so drawn to it that they decided, I want to pick up this mantle and I want to go to my area and start teaching 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. And again, like, same thing with EBI, combat jiu-jitsu. Like, I don't think Eddie came up with those ideas looking for a job. I think he was just trying to express himself, and boom, what happens? Huge submission only revolution gets started. That revolution has to be given credit to Eddie Bravo, Victor Davila, EBI, like the Danaher Death Squad, the Gio Martinez. All the early champions of EBI showed the world a sport that was actually fun and engaging to watch, and that gave birth to a whole new way to train and compete and make money in jiu-jitsu.
The advent of no-gi jiu-jitsu has changed everything about jiu-jitsu, from how it's practiced to how it's seen by the community, to really creating a brand new sport that's giving guys all over the world an opportunity to become professionals and to make a living doing their art. Most all of the things that Eddie was really preaching became the mainstream.
And this was my mission from day one, to evolve Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu into the ultimate offensive and defensive style, all in one.
Now, not only do people accept that no-gi is actually jiu-jitsu, in fact, that just seems like a no-brainer at this point. Like, you would think somebody was crazy if they said that. But now it's the mainstream. Like, all the professional money, all the viewership is poured into no-gi.
I think we should ask these questions. What does it mean to be 10th Planet? Who should be 10th Planet? Who's right to be part of 10th Planet? And who is just looking to jump on a train that's moving really fast, you know? And I think that we should keep the intention to keep our style pure, even though adding, creating, and dropping techniques is part of our style. So we absorb and we release techniques as part of our style. I think we should look for people who want to be 10th Planet purists and to keep that style going and to preserve that as we continue to expand. I know that in the next 20 years, we're going to keep growing and we're going to keep building. And I know that we're going to continue to blow up the way that we've done in the last 20 years. I only hope that we do it, really intentionally, and we stay true to who we are as a group.
If I had not met Eddie and started to learn jiu-jitsu through his filter, that maybe I wouldn't have come to love the art of jiu-jitsu. Maybe I would have just been a dude who learned how to grapple.
For 2 decades, 10th Planet has dared to be different. It has redefined the boundaries of grappling. It's given us an arsenal of unconventional techniques, a philosophy that encourages ingenuity, and a competitive spirit that thrives under pressure. But the 10th Planet story is far from over. Our mats will continue to be a crucible for innovation, a platform for competition, and a home for those who seek to challenge themselves. We believe that the greatest victories lie not in mastering the opponent, but in mastering oneself. As we look to the future, we do so with a sense of anticipation and excitement. The next chapter of 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu awaits us, ready to be written by those brave enough to step on the mat, to question the conventional, to strive, to endure, and evolve.